Ladies and gentlemen, Fourth and Trollers, welcome back to Fourth and Troll Fantasy, the most entertaining fantasy football podcast on the planet. I'm Noah Selby.
And I'm Wes Selby.
And we have arrived at the final week of our top 10 fantasy football positional rankings, and we have landed at quarterbacks. It is time to talk about some QBs. It's going to be a fun time. Wes, how you doing?
I'm great. Just freaking laughing the whole time before recording, so I've got the giggles. I'm not going to lie.
I'm ready, dude. I'm giggling. It's going to be a fun time. We're going to laugh our way through this because we're the most entertaining fantasy podcast on the planet. We hope you laugh with us and take some value away from this Barth, just so we know here. The Muth is Luth, baby.
The Muth is Luth.
Listen, we've got a fun show. It's going to be a fun time. Like I said, top 10 quarterbacks. It's going to be a time. Before we jump into it, make sure you are subscribed, leave a comment, who do you think is going to be in our top 10 here? Who's in your top 10? Leave a comment below. Ring that bell so you can get those notifications whenever we drop our new content on YouTube. It's going to be a fun time. And while you're down there, make sure you're following all our other socials. We got them down there. It's going to be a fun time. We're posting some good info. We've helped you all season. We're aiming to do that before and after this episode as we come out here and talk about our top 10 quarterbacks. I'm talking to the past tense right now for some reason. This is the last episode with
help. After this, you're on your own. Sayonara.
Comprehension skills. Hopefully you got them there and you understood what I'm saying. Listen, because we want to help you guys win it all in your league this year. Speaking of winning it all, do not forget to sign up for the very first Fourth and Troll Fantasy League, our Trollers League. Shoot us a DM on Instagram. We saw some people come in, send us some messages. We're still filling up some spots. And we're excited to announce that if one of you Trollers can beat us in this exclusive Fourth and Troll League, you will be the winner of a first edition Fourth and Troll Fantasy hat. We're going to get you some merch if you can defeat us fantasy experts in a fantasy league. It's going to be a fun time. Make sure you sign up by August 31st, but don't waste any time. Get those messages in there. Shoot us some messages. It's going to be first come, first serve. Make sure you get your messages in. Get some chance at some exclusive merch and just some bragging rights at taking down Noah Selby and Wes Selby from Fourth and Troll Fantasy in the first ever Fourth and Troll Fantasy Trollers League. You get the bragging rights. You get the title. You get the crown.
Little
Make
teaser
sure you shoot us a
for
DM. It's going to be a fun time.
Little teaser for merchandise, by the way. I like that. Little teaser
Working on
some
merch.
stuff.
I don't know if you guys caught that. We're going to get some merch out to you guys at some point here. It's going to be a fun time. Keep an eye out as well for that. We're excited about it. We hope you are too. Before the news, we just want to jump into our sponsor here. This show is sponsored by FQ Media Group. FQ is a media production company specializing in podcast production that empowers others to share their voice with their audience. For more information, check out fqmediagroup.com. Now, Wes, let's jump into the news because there's some things we've been waiting on here in the news, and we finally got it. We got here. We some running backs may be on some new teams now. Is that the case? Fill us in.
Ezekiel Elliott and Dalvin Cook have new homes. Finally, we got the word yesterday evening, actually. Ezekiel Elliott signed a one-year deal with the New England Patriots, and Dalvin Cook signed a one-year deal with the new... I said deer. He has a new deer. Yeah. Him and the Moose are hanging out together.
With his deer,
with his little pack of deer. Dalvin Cook signed a one-year deal with the New York Jets. Quick reaction. How does this affect, in your opinion, Ramondre Stevenson and Breece Hall?
I'm more worried... And this is redraft information we're talking about here. Dynasty, I'm not really worried about Breece Hall. It's a one-year deal for Dalvin. Did I just say deer too?
What is wrong with
deers,
us?
Dude? I don't know what's going on.
We just walked out of the woods into this episode.
We're just thinking about wildlife. I should put my flannel on. Listen, it's a one-year deal for Dalvin Cook. So I'm not worried about dynasty necessarily for Breece Hall, but this year, I'm a little worried about Breece Hall. Here's my logic on this. I don't think the Jets make this signing if Breece Hall is, ready to rock and roll as the top guy and take on, 25 touches a game. So that's what I'm kind of thinking is the case. I think maybe, and who knows, maybe by week 8, it's like, oh, well, Breece Hall's, the guy now. Breece Hall's the guy. I haven't decided if I'm going to buy the dip on Breece Hall. However, excuse me, I'm getting choked up just thinking about this beautiful moment.
Naturally. I feel the same. I know what you're going to say.
Back at the end of June, or actually, was it the end of July? Back at the end of July, about 2.5 weeks ago, when Ezekiel Elliott met with the Patriots, Wes, I texted you and said, Zeke, please sign with New England. Because the dip on Ramondre Stevenson is going to happen. He's going to drop, in my eyes, at least a round. So instead of going at the 2-3 turn, I think he could go at least at the 3-4 turn, if not further than that. Because don't get me wrong, Ezekiel Elliott scored on over 50% of his rushes inside the 5-yard line for the Cowboys last year.
Yeah.
He's a great end zone rusher. He's great short yardage. I think he'll still score around 10 touchdowns this year. I think it's well within the realm of possibility for Ezekiel Elliott to be a 10-touchdown running back this year. Ramondre Stevenson was an RB7 with 5 rushing touchdowns. His value does not come in the touchdown game, and that's what I think Ezekiel Elliott is threatening. So I'm here to say, Ramondre Stevenson was my RB4 before this signing. He's still in my top 10 even after this signing. I'm buying the dip, and I'm stoked about it because his ADP is going to drop, and I think it's going to be a really, really nice value that you're going to now going to get for Ramondre Stevenson. I'm still in on Ramondre, out on Breece for this year, and don't really know if I'm in on Zeke or Dalvin. I don't know if their roles are going to be enough for me to want to draft them. I got to see where their ADPs land as we get a little bit closer to draft season.
I feel the exact same way. I could not add a single thing to it. Well done. Keep that in mind as we get closer to our drafts. Last couple bit of news here, then we're getting into our top 10 quarterbacks. So running backs are still looking for a new home. Kareem Hunt, it looked like he was just about to sign with New Orleans, and then he was like, nah, and just left without a deal. And then he went to go visit the Colts, and then he was like, nah, not really. And so now he went to go visit the Vikings. So we'll see if he's just toying with everybody, if he's trying to find the right deal, the right team, the right home. But as of right now, he's got nowhere to play. So keep that in mind because that he may affect another team. We'll just find out. Okay. Players that have been activated off the PUP list include Rashad Bateman, Zach Ertz, and J.K. Dobbins. So right now, Kadarius Toney and Isaiah Pacheco are expected to recover in time for Week 1 against the Lions on Thursday night. If anyone is excited for either of them, I know I had Kadarius Toney as my guy. Keep that in mind. They might actually be able to play right away, and we'll see what Mahomes does with both of them. So Saints running back Kendre Miller, big hype. A lot of people were excited for him. He went down with a knee sprain in the preseason game over the weekend. He's going to miss about 2 weeks of preseason action. It's important to us because we don't really know how the Saints running back room is going to totally look with Kamara suspension, Jamal Williams' role. Just keeping that in mind for anyone that's interested. Last 2 bit of news here. Zach Martin. So I don't know if anyone's new, but Zach Martin was on a holdout for the Cowboys, wanted a little bit more money. He wasn't there for training camp. Well, he got his money. He got a nice $8 million raise, and he's going to help Dak Prescott and Tony Pollard in the offensive line. He's literally the best guard in the NFL, so it's huge for the Cowboys. And Brock Purdy is back. He's fully recovered. He's going to be there for the Niners in full practices this week. So he's in line to be QB1. No worry about Sam Darnold, and especially no worry about Trey Lance. So everything's good to go there. That's it for the news this time. Now, let's jump into top 10 quarterbacks of the season, baby.
Great news about Brock Purdy because he finally gets to be inside my top 3 quarterbacks for the season now that he's cleared. So
now that he's cleared, just in time.
Big relief for me on that. I was waiting to hear that news, and now he's here. Listen, we're breaking down the top 10 quarterbacks here. We've come a long way. We've gone wide receivers. We've gone running backs. We've gone tight ends. And we're at the quarterback spot. Like we've been doing, we're going to ping pong this. Wes, start us out with your number 10 quarterback for this season.
To kick off, real quick. Noah and I don't know each other's lists, so we're excited to see if we have any fourth and troll double downs. I just want to preface that. Let's see what happens here. Next 10. Okay, so to kick off the list, I'm going to say that Geno Smith is number 10. Now, I thought at first that he was top 10 last year as a byproduct of, I'll say, 5 quarterbacks that didn't make the top 10 that normally should or should have. The 5 are Tua Tagovailoa was hurt, Lamar Jackson was hurt, Kyler Murray was hurt, Aaron Rodgers had a down year, and I'll even throw in Russell Wilson 9 times out of 10 as a top 10 quarterback. This was just a terrible season for him last year. I thought Geno Smith got lucky. I thought it was a lucky season. Happy to see him have a good year on a new team, but I thought it was a fluke. Magic's going to fade away. And the way that I've done all these quarterbacks, I've actually looked at the running backs, the wide receivers, the tight ends, the stats, and put them all together. I have exact numbers for all these quarterbacks. And Geno Smith is going to be a top 10 quarterback because he's got DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett. Now he's got Jackson Smith and Jigba. He's got Zach Charbonnet along with Kenneth Walker and another Noah Fant, who's a good tight end. There's no way he's not going to be right there in the top 10. For me, he kicks off my top 10. Geno Smith is going to be just as good as he was last year.
You guys may think we set this up. But no, we did not set this up. Fourth and Troll doubled down to start off the list. My number 10 quarterback is also Geno Smith, the Seattle Seahawks. He's got a great cast around him, you guys. Listen, he did the impossible last year and proved us all wrong. Remember when we all were like, don't draft DK Metcalf, don't draft Tyler Lockett. They're going to die in Seattle. Geno Smith sucks. He can't support him. We all were out on the Seattle offense. And then he was the QB5 and one of the most accurate quarterbacks all year. Listen to this. From week 3 on, he had 10 top 12 finishes as a fantasy quarterback, as many as Joe Burrow in that time frame, and he led the league in deep ball touchdowns. Wes, as you said, they add Jackson Smith and Jigba. They add Zach Charbonnet. He's got more weapons. He got paid this offseason, and they didn't draft a replacement. I thought they were going to go Hendon Hooker and later into the first round to draft a replacement for him. He's a little older. They did not. He lands in my top 10, and, he was QB5. But as you mentioned, Wes, some guys had some down years. Some guys had injuries, so they did not crack the top 10. I've got some of those other guys ahead of him. But Geno's going in round 11, and in round 11 to get a top 10 quarterback in our eyes, listen, it's major value. Love me some Geno Smith this year. Love the Seattle offense. QB 10 consensus on Fourth and Troll Fantasy is Geno Smith. I love it. I love that we started it out. Just goes to show, guys, we're always in sync. I'm sure none of these quarterbacks are going to be any different at all. Just watch. I'm sure it'll happen.
What are you doing?
Let's kick us off with, keep it going with QB9. Who's at QB9?
Okay, so I actually thought he was going to be much higher on my list, but I've got Tua as number 9. He has absolutely no rushing upside, and if he did at all, he would be an easy top 5 for me. Regardless, I firmly believe, more likely than not, that he's going to be top 3 in yards and passing touchdowns. It seems hard to believe that Tua can't be top 3 in both of those with those weapons. Just Tyreek and Waddle alone, we already know this. But Tua playing a full season is going to have so many yards and so many touchdowns. I think it's hard to think that Tua isn't one of the best values of all fantasy players because he's also in that 9th, 10th round. Geno and Tua are 2 of the best values in quarterbacks this season. No question for me. Tua still makes my top 10, even though he's got no rushing upside, but he is definitely top 10 for everybody. I would assume he's top 10 for everyone. He's number 9 for me.
I also agree that Tua is top 10. He'll come in my list in just a little bit here. You make some great points. He does not have that rushing upside, but with the weapons he has and the pace he was on last year, how can he not be inside your top 10? I fully agree with you, Wes. I think Tua inside the top 10 is a very safe place for him to be at, and he's going outside the top 10 of the position. I think he's definitely a great draft pick for fantasy football this year.
Yeah, I love him for many reasons. One, I'm a Dolphins fan, but I think he's such a great pick. Fans. Yeah, we're also big Dolphins fans. Okay, number 9 for you, Noah.
I'm ready to piss some people off. Quarterback 9 is Justin Fields. I may get flamed for this. I may get flamed for having him this low. But last year, listen, it was fantastic. He was the waiver wire ad MVP. And we were on top of it. I said after that Minnesota Vikings game, I was like, guys, he looks good. Like, he looks good. I feel like go ahead and add him. He might start picking up. And then after that Lions game, it was like, guys, really, I think you got it. He was my waiver out of the week after that game. And I was like, this is not going to just be 1 week. It's coming up here. He's peeling off against some bad defenses coming up. He's going to be really good. And then he was unbelievable. He finishes the QB 6 with 9 finishes inside the top 10 over his final 10 games. He's a huge threat as a mobile quarterback, for sure. But I don't think the passing game isn't improving. I don't see it happening. And it's not improving enough, even with the addition of DJ Moore, for him to repeat the same fantasy success he had last year. He's going to be great. He's still a top 10 guy. And I think he'll genuinely have a couple weeks. He will have a couple weeks as the top scoring fantasy quarterback, thanks to his mobile rushing ability. But he's not going to be consistently great enough as a passer to finish any higher than quarterback 9. I've got him inside my top 10 barely, but I don't think he is making the leap. He's not making the leap that Josh Allen made when he got Stephon Diggs. He's not making the leap that Jalen Hurts did when he got A.J. Brown. He's not making the leap that Tua did when he got Tyreek Hill. He's not making the leap that Joe Burrow made when he got Jamar Chase. We've seen the pattern happen. It's not happening with Justin Fields. He is not going to be as good enough of a passer and use his passing ability enough to be any higher than quarterback 9. He's inside my top 10 because he is probably the best mobile quarterback in the NFL when it comes to using his legs. But he's not going to advance as a passer. He's my quarterback 9 for that reason.
Well, people aren't drafting Justin Fields for his passing ability. They're drafting him because he is one of the most impressive dual threat running or quarterbacks, quarterbacks in fantasy. I think he's going to do just the same with his rushing upside, and I think you just add a little bit more of the passing value, and I'll talk about him later because I think he's going to do great. I mean, the rushing points add so much value, and that's why Tua's only 9th.
It's not. Listen,
he's still top 10 for you.
We just saw the preseason game. He's still top 10. But we saw the preseason game, guys. Don't pay attention to the box score if you're just watching the box score. He had like 130 yards and 2 touchdowns on 3 passes. He threw like 7 air yards past the line of scrimmage. The 2 passes behind the line of scrimmage, the dump off to Khalil Herbert and the screen pass to DJ Moore, they were inaccurate balls. I don't see Justin Fields making the leap as a passer. I don't think he's going to. I'm not so certain that he's going to just – he's naturally going to just, DJ Moore's here now? Great. Okay, cool. I don't see it. I mean, listen, he's still QB9. I haven't been drafting him. I don't see the leap happening in the passing game. I'm not convinced. It's one of those things where he's got to show me. He's got to show me, and if he does this year, listen, he may be in my top 3 next year. But QB9 is as high as I can put him. I just don't see it happening.
I got a feeling he will show you. I got a good feeling.
Make me eat my words. Make me eat my words, Justin Fields. Make me eat my
fantasy,
words. Wes, who's QB8?
Good. I have a similar impression on Lamar Jackson. He's my quarterback 8 on the season, and I am taking the side of caution with a few factors. One, this huge dispute during the offseason was the biggest headline of the 2023 offseason. Was Lamar going to hold out? Was he going to get traded to the Falcons? We thought that was a real possibility. Everything that transpired for me shows that the Ravens want to make sure not only does this never happen again, but they want to make sure they get the best of Lamar Jackson for as long as possible, and they're going to keep Lamar as healthy as possible because he hasn't played a full season since 2019, and he won MVP when that happened. I don't know. My rankings don't have anything to do with how many games I think these players are going to play. I'm not factoring in injuries. I'm expecting all of these players to play 17 games. I think Lamar will play a full season, and I think that's what affects his rushing upside enough to not quite put him in the top 5. I don't see him getting 1,000 yards. I don't see him having a ton of rushing touchdowns, but I still think he's going to have a lot of rushing yards for a quarterback and a lot of rushing touchdowns. And I think that transitions over to the passing game because they did bring in OBJ and they drafted Zay Flowers. Rushing points are worth so much more than passing stats. And I think that just devalue some of what Lamar's going to do on the ground. In the end, it balances out as QB8 for me. I still like him. I still think he's going to have a good season, but I think there's going to be more focus on passing the ball and preserving his health into the season because they are no doubt a playoff team. So for me, I've got Lamar as number 8. I don't think it's a bad year, but I think similar to what I've been talking about with the Bills and being more conservative, I think they're going to try to protect this player they had so much drama with during the offseason and the investments in wide receivers. Lamar Jackson, QB8.
I hear everything you're saying. And I think the only thing I'm going to say is I think we might need to make a little side bet on Lamar Jackson over under 1,000 rushing yards. I will be shocked if he goes under 1,000 rushing yards. I'll talk about him in a little bit. I think he's going to be fantastic, and you do too. It's just we're a couple spots off here, but I think he's going to be great. I definitely think though he goes over that 1,000 rushing yards. Guys, comment below: is Lamar going over 1,000 rushing yards or under 1,000 rushing yards? Let us know. Let us know which side you're on. Listen, make Wes and I hate each other. That's what I want you to do.
Problem,
guys. Joking around always here on Fourth and Troll Fantasy.
Just
but let us know if you think. Yeah, put in the comments here. Let us know if you think Lamar goes over 1,000 rushing yards or under 1,000 rushing yards. I got the over. Wes has the under. We're gonna have to wait and see what happens here.
For this season, he's done it. Sure. He's done it twice, by the way.
Yeah,
he's done it
wait
twice.
And see what happens here.
So okay, so that's my number 8 QB. Share with us your 8th best quarterback.
Yeah, my QB8, we just talked about him, is Tua Tagovailoa. He comes in at QB8 because, how can you not have the guy who has Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle as their top 2 wide receivers inside your top 10? But it goes beyond that. Tua was actually phenomenal last year, you guys. He led the league in yards per attempt and was tied with only Patrick Mahomes for the highest touchdown rate in the NFL. He averaged the 9th most fantasy points per game last year amongst quarterbacks and was on pace to be 2nd in passing yards and 3rd in passing touchdowns. He's being drafted outside the top 10, as I said already. I see a massive value. I think Tua is going to shock a lot of people this year. I think this team is feeling good, and I think they're excited to play football this year. I think they like their chances a lot. And so I think Tua is going to be hot and ready like a Little Caesars pizza under that center position at quarterback. And listen, shout out Little Caesars, by the way, guys. Little Caesars is
a visual sponsor of NFL.
Extremely underrated pizza, by the way. Just so you guys know. Hot and ready. Go get yourself some pizza. Guys, hey, Little Caesars, if you want to sponsor the show, let us know.
We'd love that.
Shout out. There we go. Yeah,
pause the episode, have some Little Caesars. Keep watching.
He's my Tua is my quarterback 8. I think he's going to be super impressive this year, and I think he is going to outperform his ADP pretty well. He lands at QB8 for me.
We're both there at 8 and 9. I mean, we both feel that he's solid in the top 10. Rushing upside, obviously not there, but here's another point too, is that their defense, the Dolphins defense, is going to be much better. Their defensive coordinator, Vic Fangio, is there, and it seems scary. Their Dolphins defense seems scary, which means maybe not as many passing attempts or big throws in the 3rd and 4th quarter because they're going to have a better defense. But then I just remembered they have one of the most horrible schedules in the NFL. Like, they are playing the best teams in the whole league. So it may not even matter how good their defense is. They're going to have to keep putting up points. Yeah, fantastic. Very happy that he's there.
Tua at QB8. Give us your QB7, Wes.
Justin Herbert is number 7 on my list, and I really want to explain why I think Justin Herbert is borderline a waste of a draft pick, because I don't think that you can even actually tell me that he is going to do that much better than Tua, Geno Smith, Kirk Cousins, maybe even Aaron Rodgers as far as yards and stats. Because here's the truth. Unless you think Justin Herbert's going to throw 5,000 yards and 40 touchdowns, he's not going to have more points than a quarterback with rushing upside. This is just the math, okay? I'm going to give an example here. If you have a quarterback that rushes for 500 yards and 4 touchdowns, that's it. Not Lamar Jackson, not Justin Fields, not even Josh Allen, okay? 500 yards, 4 touchdowns. It's going to take 2,000 passing yards to negate that. How many passing yards is Herbert going to need to negate the rushing quarterbacks? Trevor Lawrence is going to have stats like that as well. Here's the thing. Herbert is going to be amazing, okay? I think he's going to have over 4,700 yards. I think he's going to have around 30, 32, 33 touchdowns. But in the fantasy football world, you can only get so far in the top 10 if you don't have rushing upside. I know he's going to be great. I think he's going to be awesome. But we're talking Patrick Mahomes numbers if you want to be where people are drafting Justin Herbert. And he's in the 5th round. People are reaching for him in the 4th round. I can get the same value that Herbert is going to get me in the 9th and 10th round with Tua and Geno Smith. So for me, I like Herbert. I think he's going to be good, but his ADP is way too high, and you can have a much better team without Herbert unless everyone in your team, in your league agrees and you let him fall. So that's why I've got Herbert as number 7.
Oh, there's so many things I want to say, and I'm going to talk about Justin Herbert here. You're so wrong. You're so wrong. And I want to explain, but I can't because I'm going to talk about him here.
Okay.
But man, it is okay. Here, okay. All right. Let's do this. There's so many things I want to say right now.
Sure,
you're far too low. You are far too low on Justin Herbert, and I want to say so many things, but he's not coming up on my list yet, so I can't talk about him.
Okay, I'll let you wait. I'll let you. You have your opportunity to make your rebuttal when you get to Herbert, and then you give me all the reasons because I gave my preface. Unless he's going to put up 5,000 yards and 40 touchdowns, he's not worth his draft pick. He's not worth his ADP. So I'll leave it there, and I'll let you counter when we finally get to where you've got Herbert on your list.
Okay. So no. Well, here's the thing. I'll say he threw. I believe 31 and then 37. I believe he threw 37 touchdowns his rookie year, or it was his rookie year or his second year. He threw his first 2 years in the league. He threw 31 and then 37 touchdowns. I don't remember exactly where that was. That was with an unhealthy wide receiver core, with an offensive coordinator who was beyond terrible in Joe Lombardi. And last year, we can talk about it. He was not great last year. It was a down year. He broke his ribs in week 2 and played through the entire thing. Justin Herbert.
Yeah,
I think he's well worth the pick where he's going, and I'll talk about him more. But I think he can certainly throw for it. What was the mark you need to talk about? 4,700 or 50?
I have him. Let me get my exact numbers here.
I absolutely think he can throw for over 5,000 yards and 40 touchdowns.
4,700 yards, 35 touchdowns. If he's I've got him throwing 13 interceptions because he has thrown no less than 10 every year. So I'm throwing that in too. That's part of my
So you think he throws more interceptions this year?
I think he's throwing less than he did when he threw 5,000 yards. Because he threw 15.
Sorry, you said he's never thrown less than 10.
Less than 10. He's thrown 10.
I'm sorry.
At least 10 interceptions every year.
I misheard you. I thought you said he's never thrown more than 10. And so I was going to say words to make you explain why his wide receivers got better and yet he's going to throw more interceptions. I absolutely think Justin Herbert can throw for 5,000 yards and 40 touchdowns, and I'll explain why in a little bit. And I think you're wrong about his rushing upside, and I'll talk about that in a little bit too. But I think we are on very opposite sides of the spectrum here.
Okay.
For Justin Herbert and his range of outcomes.
I think he can. He has done it. It's possible. But I am not going to assume he's going to do better than Mahomes did last year, who won MVP. That's where I stand. Okay, that's my QB7. Reset, go back to your list. Quarterback 7, Noah, for the season.
Yeah, my quarterback 7 is Lamar Jackson. We're one spot off here on the last two guys here with Tua and my quarterback 7, Lamar Jackson here. He comes into the year with, I think, arguably his best group of receivers he's ever played with. I think, well, these group of guys aren't, the top guys. I think they're still the best receivers he's played with. Devin Duvernay was a name we talked about last year, you guys, because that was one of Lamar Jackson's go-to targets. And he's playing with an offensive coordinator who is prioritizing the passing game in Todd Monken. Of course, the rushing aspect of Lamar's game is always the major upside here. But with a new offensive scheme, and what I think, and actually I think it's proven here, is that more drop backs for Lamar Jackson will equal to more passing and more scrambling opportunities here. The more Lamar Jackson is dropping back looking for the pass, the more chance he has to tuck it and run and pick up 10, 15 yards. I think Lamar Jackson truly has QB1 upside this season, thanks to the expanded passing game role. He's my quarterback 7. Maybe just because these top 6 guys I think are going to be better, but I think Lamar Jackson in a new offensive scheme and a heavy passing offensive scheme has truly quarterback 1 upside. And I think he's going to be really special to watch this year. So he's my QB7.
I like the spot. It's only 1 spot difference, but my reason that I've got him 1 spot lower is because rushing upside is worth more than the passing stats. The rushing stats are worth more, right. So I've got him just a little bit lower because I think he will have better passing stats. So that's why I've got him 1 spot down. But I do like his receivers. Truthfully, Lamar is not a good... Let me finish my sentence because it's going to get out of context for the first few words. Lamar Jackson is not a very good quarterback for wide receivers as far as fantasy goes. He's never produced a top 20 wide receiver, but he has Mark Andrews. So he's got something there. This is the closest he'll get to having top 20 wide receivers. And I think more likely than not, it's going to be Zay Flowers. I think Zay Flowers is a likely candidate to be a top 20 wide receiver. I do like the passing upside for him. I've got the under on 1,000 yards rushing, but it's 8 or 7. I think that's right in that range. And Lamar Jackson's going to have another good season, all 17 games. I believe it.
Yeah, I think he plays a full year. I'm going to do some quick math here just for fun. Just because,
I love math.
I love math, dude. It's super fun. Lamar Jackson would need to rush for 59 yards a game to go over 1,000 yards. And that would just be on 59. Average. So 59 yards every game. I think he hits the over on that pretty well. I think he can go for 1,100. We'll have to wait and see what happens here because obviously, guys, we're like 3 weeks away from the NFL season. I'm so excited.
We're so close.
We've come far. We've come pretty far.
Pretty good.
It's going to be very exciting.
About 60 yards a game to get 1,000.
We'll see what happens. I'm sure there'll be games where he has 30. I'm sure there'll be games where he has 30. I'm sure there'll be some games where he has 120. We'll see. Let's see what happens here because he's playing in a very competitive division this year. So we'll have to wait and see here. I believe we are at quarterback 6. Wes, take us there.
That's right. This is where I've got the Chicago Bears quarterback Justin Fields. I feel strongly that he is going to have a great rushing season as well as starting to blossom as a pocket passer in some way. Make fun of the stat line all you want from the preseason game, but it does feel like that he has a far better receiving core than he has ever had. And no offense to DJ Moore and Chase Claypool, but there are far better duos in the NFL, but it's certainly a great starting point for Fields. And it's something to work with too. He is getting along with DJ Moore as well. They are connecting and clicking. Training camp has a lot of buzz between the two of them. I still don't think it's going to have even 3,000 yards passing. There's no way. There's absolutely no way he's going to throw 3,000 yards. I have him with like 22 passing touchdowns.
22
21.
total passing yards.
20 passing yards. That's it for the season. No,
Yeah.
I have him 2,600 yards, 21 passing touchdowns. That is nothing. No one ever believes that is a top 10 quarterback in fantasy until you factor in everything he did on the ground. And I believe it's going to be a repeat. I like it a lot. And I think Justin Fields is the number 6 quarterback in fantasy.
Yeah, listen, if he makes the jump I think he can make, or that I don't think he is going to make, but he makes the jump that people think he's going to make, top 5, top 6 is definitely in the realm of possibility. And I listen, I might be a little bit of a hater. I don't know if I have a bias against Justin Fields. I don't know if I don't like where he's going in fantasy drafts. I don't know. I think there's just what's his name? Matt Eberflus, their head coach. I don't know if it's something against him or whatever. What I think the scheme is going to be like. I'm not sure. I know he's a special player, but I don't see the jump happening. I don't think he makes a leap in the passing game, and we're splitting hairs over like three ranking spots here. Like I still have him top 10. I still think he's great. Wes, you think he's a little more great than I do, and well, let me ask this: would you draft him at ADP?
If given the right spot in a draft, I would.
Sure.
I would.
So
I would need to go through mock drafts.
He's being taken in, I believe,
like
the end of the 5th round. I believe the end of the 5th round. Would you take him over, maybe somebody who's going around there like Miles Sanders or Marquise Brown or guys like, or Darren Waller is somebody who I believe is going around there. I mean, do we think Justin Fields makes enough of a difference in your fantasy lineup on a weekly basis to miss out on some guys who have strong upside in round 5?
I do. I think that is. I don't want to. He is worth his pick if you are in the right spot. If you are in the right spot in the draft order, because you have to then strategize drafting a quarterback that early.
Sure.
Because then you are sacrificing, this is my point about Herbert, you're sacrificing a better running back or a great wide receiver, a sleeper pick. If you believe that Darren Waller is a top 3 tight end, now is a good chance to go reach and get him. Dallas Goedert's going to be on the board. It depends where you want your value. I think Justin Fields does have the value, but if you don't want to make that risk, then you have Tua Tagovailoa and Geno Smith there waiting for you with open arms to keep you back in the playoff race.
Great reasoning. Great reasoning. Very sound logic and advice, and something to consider.
Thanks,
if you're looking at the Justin Fields. If you're in the Justin Fields sweepstakes for drafting him this year.
I've never been someone to take quarterbacks early. It's never been my strategy. So I'm just trying it out with some mock drafts to see what it looks like. And it takes practice because it can go wrong.
Yeah.
In my opinion, it can go wrong quickly if you take Justin Fields instead of one player, because you do mock drafts and you got people that are just doing the routine thing. And then come draft day, oh my gosh, someone makes the dumbest thing and everything changes. Everyone just starts panicking. Yeah. So just keep that in mind. Okay. At the end of right before the top 5, I was trying to find a way to say just before the top 5, QB6. I should just say you're QB6, Noah.
Yeah. Buckle in. All right. And hear me out. Josh Allen's my QB6. I know. Josh Allen is my quarterback 6. Why on earth is the QB1 in points per game last year and the quarterback with the most top 5 finishes in the league last year sitting at QB6? Turnovers. Last year, he had a career-high 20 turnovers, and Sean McDermott does not want that to happen again. We've seen them blow their chances in the playoffs. Turnovers. We've seen it happen. Listen, there'll be conservative play calling and less rushing in the red zone for Josh Allen this year. It's not hate. He's top 6. He's my QB6. But I do believe that he is not going to do enough to crack the top 5 this year. I've got him outside. He's my quarterback 6. It comes down to what I think the play calling is going to look like in Buffalo. I know he's a big guy. I know he's a tough guy. He just signed a big contract extension. I think they want to keep him healthy for it. And yeah, it's a bold call, but I'm calling my shot here that Josh Allen does not end up inside the top 5 of the quarterback position this year. He's my QB6.
Holy smokes. Goodness. I obviously have not said Josh Allen's name yet, but we have had this trend the last few episodes that we expect the Bills offense to play more conservatively. And I would play around a little bit with my numbers, given what I just saw James Cook do in the preseason as well. And I think it is possible that Josh Allen falls to barely top 5. I wouldn't put him as low as 6 because I think there is still too much talent in Josh Allen to ever break out of the top 5. But I don't hate it. I have the same logic. It's not as low. I think that's low, but that is a take. Oh man,
it's pretty low, and I got some bold claims for my top 5, but he's still great. Am I going to draft him in the second, third round? No, like I don't. He's going way too early for my liking, and that's not. I did my best to not make that reflect in my rankings. I'm not just based off likes or because I'm a Dolphins fan. I'm against Josh Allen, whatever. That's not the case. I don't see him having the inside the 10-yard line, inside the 5-yard line rushing success that they had this past year. Latavius Murray, believe it or not, is getting a lot of praise out of camp for his role in the running game. And I think he'll get a lot. I don't know, dude. He's like 33 years old. I heard that he broke off like a 70-yard touchdown in practice the other day. And I'm like, he's 33. Like, how did this even happen? Like, what are you talking about?
They have a good defense, too. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. So we'll have to see what happens. He's in a competitive division for sure, but I've got Josh Allen as my QB6, and I'm not too sorry about it.
Oh, hot stuff. Hot off the press. Hot cakes, hot pancakes, dude.
Jump into the top 5, Wes. Who's your QB5?
Well, you haven't said his name yet, which means that we both have the same idea about where he's going to be this season, and I've got Trevor Lawrence, QB5 on the year. We've been talking about how great he is all season long, and when you put it all together, it gets a little scary how good the Jaguars offense is going to be. And I have thought about it, and I will stand by that. I think the Jaguars have the most well-rounded and complete offense in the NFL next to the Eagles and the 49ers. Well-rounded. All around. They are going to be so efficient, so smooth. Trevor Lawrence is going to take that year 3 leap. We already believed that going into the season, but then you start hearing how gosh darn ding dang heckin' good Calvin Ridley is apparently doing, and you get excited. And then you start hearing how Evan Ingram is also balling out. Zay Jones keeps having the catch of the day in camp. Everyone is freaking excited. Then Trevor Lawrence is going to toss it over to Travis Etienne, who's still good. Don't forget, Etienne is still a good football player. He's not in either of our top 10s, but he's still good. And then Tank Bigsby is also having some great days too. Who knows what his upside truly is? Trevor Lawrence has a plethora of weapons around him. Not to mention, he's got some rushing upside. He's got the ability to punch it into the end zone. And before this episode, I spent like maybe a month working on my quarterback rankings. I was going in and out for so long. I think that 500-yard, 4-touchdown stat line is pretty much what we can expect of Trevor Lawrence. He's going to be right there. And I want to consider it as even higher upside for the rushing because I just watched the Jaguars preseason game. And I don't know if you caught it, but the Jaguars quarterbacks had 2 rushing touchdowns in that game. I got a really good feeling about Trevor Lawrence, and he's top 5. He might even be higher by the end. By the end of this episode, I might even have him higher. Trevor Lawrence, T-Law, number 5.
Beautiful. No notes. No notes to give. And that's fantastic, Wes. Trevor Lawrence, QB5. I love it.
Ah, he's going to be so good. Okay, number 5. Yep. Let's hear it.
Number 5 is my man crush, Joey B. Joe Burrow is my quarterback 5. He was a quarterback 4 last year, and he did it without Jamar Chase for over a month. Listen, here's the thing. He lands at quarterback 5 on my list just because I think I'm expecting just massive things out of these next 4 guys that I'm going to talk about. But Joe Burrow and the Bengals should absolutely light it up this year, especially, like I said, in a more competitive division with the Steelers, with the Browns, with the Ravens. There you go. There's the other one. Steelers, Browns, Ravens. It's going to be some high-scoring matches, at least 6 games out of the year. I think Joe Burrow is going to be absolutely fantastic this year. Not a ton of rushing upside, but he's definitely one of those guys that can throw for over 4,800 yards and 4 touchdowns. Like, I no doubt about it. Did I say 4 or 40? I believe I meant to say 40. I don't know if I said 4 touchdowns or not. I definitely think he can throw for more than 4 touchdowns. Okay, good. I just got in my own head then. I think I looked at QB4. No, Joe Burrow can definitely throw for 4,800 yards and 40 touchdowns. I think he can absolutely do it. Irv Smith Jr., a little sleeper name there to think about whenever you're looking at your fantasy lineups. Hayden Hurst was had some spike weeks for the Bengals last year. I think Irv Smith Jr. could do it if he stays healthy. I really like Joe Burrow. I really like his cast. He is my QB5 this year.
I'm honestly just so insanely high on Jamar Chase that Burrow's a little bit higher on my list. He does actually have a pretty decent rushing upside, which is why he ends up a little bit higher. But, dude, Joey B is one of the most solid, quote, pure passers in the NFL as far as getting you the kind of passing yards and passing touchdowns that you need to have a quarterback land in the top 5. And here's another thing that I'll just share. I'm kind of just giving my spiel on Joe Burrow that I could have just saved for when I get to him, but I'll just finish my thought. He had 12 interceptions last year, which is a pretty decent amount until you remember that he threw 4 in week 1. So he's not really a turnover machine. So I expect that to drop down significantly, and that's going to help him be in the top 5. So I certainly love Burrow. Love him a lot. And I'll just wait for the last little bit on mine.
No, I think it's going to be very good. I think last year was a little bit of an outlier season as far as rushing goes for him. He had never had more than 40 rushing attempts in a single season until last year, and last year it's 76 and 5 rushing touchdowns. And he more than doubled his rushing yards. I don't know if I see that as like a thing that he's going to continue to do this year or not. I'm not sure. He could absolutely have 5 rushing touchdowns this year and have more rushing upside. I just see him more. When I think about Joe Burrow, I think about him as a pocket passer. I don't necessarily think about him as having a ton of rushing upside. So he lands at 5 for me, but he's not anywhere out of my good graces. He's still going to be fantastic here. So jumped into QB4, Wes. Who is going to be just outside your top 3?
Landing at number 4 is Josh Allen. I still think he is too talented, despite the conservative offensive style that we're going to see from the Bills, to fall out of the top 5. But he does fall out of the top 3 for me for those same reasons that you just laid out, Noah. I still think he's great. I still think he's going to have great rushing upside, but I think the stats that could and should get him into the top 3 and borderline QB1 are going to push him back, and he is going to be capped with this new playing style to make sure that he protects the ball so much more. Instead of turning it over in the red zone so often, he's going to throw it away more often, and he could and should be top 3, but he's not, because I think that he's going to play safer and smarter. Either way, it's still Josh Allen, and I can't kick him out of the top 5 altogether, even though we have the same idea. So number 4, Josh Allen. Still like him.
Yeah. We're in the same mind frame, in the same space. We're just a little bit off in how much we think it's going to affect him. And QB4 or QB6, Josh Allen's going to Josh Allen. And if you want to spend a high draft pick on a quarterback, Josh Allen is not a bad player to go for sure. So I'm not angry about him being at 4. I've got him at 6, just 2 spots higher. I think he could definitely finish there, but I do agree. I don't think he will be top 3. So
it's worth noting that we have the same logic. I'm gonna count that as a fourth and troll double down half, a half double down.
A half is a fourth and troll double, and then
it's a single down.
It's a single down, a fourth and troll single down.
Yeah, same reasoning. Okay. Number 4, best quarterback on your list, Noah.
The leap is coming. Get ready. Trevor Lawrence is my QB4.
Wow.
Last year was nearly the breakout for Trevor Lawrence. He finished as QB8 while having more weeks outside the top 10 than inside the top 10. And last year, he joined Deshaun Watson as only the second quarterback to finish with 4,000 plus passing yards, 25 plus passing touchdowns, and 5 plus rushing touchdowns in NFL history. He was also the second guy to do that. The team added Calvin Ridley. I expect Trevor Lawrence to benefit tremendously from that addition. Calvin Ridley looks phenomenal in training camp. The little that we saw in him in the preseason game didn't give me any pause. It looked like he had been out there last season. It looked like he hadn't missed a beat playing on a football field. I'm really, really excited. And one more thing, I spoke on this once before, but while Trevor Lawrence last season was 7th in the NFL in pass attempts, he was just 18th in touchdown rate, which means we should see positive regression here in the passing touchdown department. Trevor Lawrence is making a massive leap this season, and he is my QB4 and well worth taking in the first 7 rounds of your fantasy draft.
I completely agree. He is well worth the pick. I have done mock drafts.
He's so good.
He's going to be so good. He's going to be.
It's going to be unbelievable.
It's not outrageous to just outside of fantasy world to go ahead and say that Trevor Lawrence is going to be in the MVP conversation.
I truly think he will. Yeah,
that is the expectation for Trevor Lawrence, and I'm buying into it. I've given, because you have Burrow beneath him, I've given the edge to Burrow because of his experience already, his Super Bowl run.
Sure.
He's been in the championship 2 years in a row. I like Jamar Chase a lot more than I like any of his other Trevor Lawrence's receivers. But if I'm torn, I'm going to be torn between Joe Burrow and Trevor Lawrence if I'm given the opportunity. If I have the option, oh, dude.
Good luck. I'll make sure to call you and check up on you if you haven't been drafting.
I'll just draft Ezekiel Elliott instead, the new Patriots' best running back.
Baby. We love to see it. He's going to be fantastic. Love Trevor Lawrence so much. I think it's going to be a great year. We've reached the top 3. Wes, QB3, hit me with it.
I just said his name. It's Joe Burrow. I have already said a lot about him. I'll just summarize. It mostly stems from how much I believe in Jamar Chase. Joe Burrow's already really phenomenal. So it's not like I'm picking some random receiver I'm high on and saying, oh, and by the way, his quarterback's going to be top 3. Now, Joe Burrow is really great. And I like what you said because I do buy into this new rushing stat line from last season. I think it balances out a little bit, but I do think he's going to punch it in the end zone a couple of times. And he's going to have a decent amount of yards. And by decent, I mean like 200. But I think he's going to have about 4 rushing touchdowns. And I think that's just going to get him that edge in addition to the, oh my gosh, so many yards and the, oh my gosh, so many touchdowns. I've already said Jamar Chase is going to have 15 plus touchdowns. Give me the quarterback that's thrown to Jamar Chase. Joe Burrow, QB3.
Yeah, I can't blame you for having the quarterback for your QB1 be in your top 3, especially when it's somebody like Joe Burrow. I love Joe Burrow, my man crush. I think he's going to be fantastic. I don't blame you whatsoever for him being a top 3 quarterback. I'm just excited to watch the man play football again. He's so fun to watch play. He's got such a swagger to him, and I love it.
He is the new Joe Cool, and it's unfair. I love him. Okay, your introduction to the top 3, please.
Had to shake that off. Justin Herbert is my QB3 this year, and I honestly still might be too low. It was a disappointing year for Justin Herbert last year. No doubt about it. He was drafted as the QB3 and finished as the QB11, finishing with just 2 weeks as a top 5 quarterback. But people seem to just be brushing past the fact that he had his top 2 receivers healthy and in the same game on just 4 occasions. Oh, and let's not also brush past the fact that he broke his ribs in week 2 and still played the entire season. He dropped from 300 rushing yards and 3 rushing touchdowns in 2021 to just 147 rushing yards and no rushing touchdowns in 2022. And I can't imagine that being attributed to anything more than some broken ribs. He rushed for 5 rushing touchdowns in his rookie season. He knows how to run the football and get the ball into the end zone with his legs. He's done it before. We've seen it happen before. If I had broken ribs, I probably wouldn't be running for touchdowns either. That is, if I was in the NFL. I'm not in the NFL. But it's beyond the point. We'll see what happens here. I might
missed opportunity. Uncle Rico.
Yeah, missed opportunity. Might be able to get a tryout here at some point or something like that. Justin Herbert now gets Kellen Moore as his offensive coordinator, who schemed Dak Prescott to a QB2 finish in Kellen Moore's first year as the Cowboys offensive coordinator. The Chargers drafted Quentin Johnston in the first round back in April. I'm expecting massive things from Justin Herbert this season. He's my QB3 at least.
Okay. Give me the stat line. Let's do this because I want to know how many yards and touchdowns you think Herbert's going to put up.
So, like I said, before last season, he had gone over 30 at both times. Last year was a down year. 30. Let me pull it up because I want to make sure I get the stats correct here.
I'm gonna say you're
last
stalling.
season. You think I'm stalling? Is that what it is?
I think you're stalling. Yeah.
Yeah. Or just numbers. It's all good. No worries. Listen, last year, without his top two wide receivers, besides being on 4 occasions, 4,700 yards and 25 touchdowns. So now a not fully revamped wide receiver room is still Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, but they add Quentin Johnston to it and a new offensive coordinator who has helped Dak Prescott be a top 3 fantasy quarterback. And we're putting him outside our top 3, and we're putting him at QB7 here. Listen, I think he can absolutely. 2 seasons ago, he went for over 5,000 yards.
Noah. Well, my question was how many what's his stats? How many yards and touchdowns?
I haven't statted him out.
I just want to know how many you think he's going to put up.
Let's see.
Do you
last year was 47 and 25? So
do you think he's going to throw 5,000 yards and 40 touchdowns? Because that's my mark. Because I don't think he's going to get that. I don't think he's going to be top 3. Because I do not believe he's throwing 5,000 yards and 40 touchdowns. He's going to do better than the quarterbacks with the rushing upside.
I absolutely think he can go for over 5,000 yards and 40 touchdowns. Absolutely.
Golly.
Absolutely.
He to do what Mahomes did last year.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely, I think that. Absolutely. He was quarterback 2 in 2021 with 5,000 passing yards and 38 touchdowns and 15 interceptions. And he was a quarterback 2.
Right.
I absolutely think he can go for over 5,000 yards and 40 touchdowns this year.
I understand. Okay. All right. Fair enough. I think that's so much to ask for of Justin Herbert. I think to do better than what Mahomes did last year is a lot. And I don't see the rushing upside coming back. I know he had a hurt rib. I see him getting in the end zone on the ground a couple of times, but we differ. That's all I say. We differ on this.
That's fine. I've done plenty of mock drafts, and in nearly every single one, I'm very happy taking Justin Herbert where he is.
Okay.
I am very happy doing that.
Great. You take Herbert in the 5th round, and I'll draft Tua that gets the same stat line in the end of the season in the 9th round.
They're not going to finish the same. They will not finish the same.
We'll find out. Okay.
They will not finish the same.
Okay.
Justin Herbert will absolutely have a better stat line than Tua will this season. Absolutely.
All right. Fine. Fair enough. Let's move on.
You're out of your mind, dude. Quarterback 7 is so low. Quarterback 7 is so beyond low.
To ask Herbert to be better than Mahomes last season is insane. Speaking of, I'll jump into my number 2.
Mahomes, all right, well, hang on. Mahomes did like 50, like nearly 5,241. I don't think that's outrageous to predict Justin Herbert to.
Oh, I think that is outrageous to predict that Justin Herbert is going to do as well as Mahomes did last year. They are not nearly as good. He's not as good a quarterback as Mahomes. He's
That's not what I said.
That's my point. I don't think in fantasy you're going to expect that through the air. I think he's going to have a great season, but my whole point has been the rushing upside makes the biggest difference, and I don't see him getting enough yards and passing touchdowns to balance out what he won't do on the ground compared to what everyone else will. You're looking up something.
I'm pulling up some stats here. I just want to take a look at it because I don't know that I don't think it's a fair comparison to just look at a stat line and go, well, that's he's not going to do better than that. Like it's not.
I'll let you finish.
I'm just looking up what.
Okay, while you're doing that, I will say it is fair for me to use that stat line because based on my numbers, that is the stat line he needs to be right there next to Mahomes. If he wants to be in the top 3, that is the number he needs for my numbers. That's why I said at the start, you need to be dead set on 5,000 yards and 40 touchdowns. You are. You're locked in. You believe with full confidence he's going to put up MVP numbers. Basically, to do what Mahomes did for the MVP. You're set. And if he does do that, then absolutely. I am not dead set on that. That's why he's not there in my top 3. So that's where my number comes from. Because of everything else I've done and calculated, he's got to put up those kinds of stats.
I understand, and I like you said, I have him doing that. I have him doing that this year. I think he's going to be absolutely fantastic.
That's
I think
fair.
He's worth a draft pick. Hang on, okay. I'm just looking up. Okay, so
real time research. Only got 2 quarterbacks. We got to finish on Herbert. This is awesome.
It's a fun debate. We don't disagree often, Wes. I just think we are. I'm so firm in this. I'm so firm in this. Let's see.
While he's looking up,
I'm trying to find Dak. I'm trying to find Dak Prescott's stats from his 2019 season when he was the QB2.
Okay.
Because I want him. I'm trying to figure that out. Either way, the point we're looking at here is I am dead set. I believe Justin Herbert goes for over 5,040 this year. You do not. I believe he has a resurgence in his rushing upside this year. You do not. We are on opposite sides of the spectrum here. I'm very happy taking Justin Herbert in the 5th or 6th round whenever I need to. Let's let it ride. Let's let it play out, and let's see what happens here.
Right. There's a stipulation: 5K, 40 touchdowns. We'll see where he goes. Okay. Number 2 on my list, the benchmark of QB1s, Patrick Mahomes. I've got him as QB2. Okay.
I said, what a guy to bring up.
Patrick Mahomes. As I've mentioned, I've done all of the numbers for my own personal predictions on the wide receivers, their stat lines, the tight ends and their stat lines, the running backs and their receiving stat lines, and everything comes down to where I've got these 10 quarterbacks. And I've thought about this saying about the bumblebee. Have you ever heard that by all laws of aviation, the bumblebee should not be able to fly? That's a real thing. All law of aviation, bees should not be able to fly. There is no way Patrick Mahomes should be able to put up nearly anything that we expect him to do with his wide receivers. And yet, by all stats, he's still going to be right there in that 5,000 yards and 40 touchdown mark. I can't prove it other than he is the greatest player I've ever watched play the NFL. Patrick Mahomes, QB2.
I don't have anything more I can say. I don't have words for how good Patrick Mahomes is. I do, and I'll share them in just a second. But he is absolutely special, top 2 quarterback easily, and I don't think anyone should feel any differently.
Yeah, there's not much to say because we already know all about him. Okay, that's my QB2. Who is your QB2?
My QB2 is your QB1, Wes, I'm sure, and it's just because he hasn't been mentioned yet, but it's Jalen Hurts. And Jalen Hurts is just special. 10 weeks last year as a top 4 fantasy quarterback. 10 weeks. In fact, his worst week last year was a QB 15 finish, and he still scored 17 fantasy points. He's so good that he had 3 weeks last year where he didn't even finish the whole game because the Eagles were up by so many points, and he was still either the quarterback 1 or the quarterback 2 on the week. He is unbelievable what he can do in fantasy football, what he can do in real life football on the football field. Last year, he had the most red zone rush attempts of all time in history for a quarterback last year. And with a running back room that only got worse, that's not going to change this year. Jalen Hurts is going to be unbelievable. He's QB2, and he certainly has his QB1 upside. And he probably would have finished QB1 last year had he not gotten hurt. He's my quarterback 2.
Well, do you mind if I just transition into Jalen Hurts?
No, yeah,
my
go
QB1 because he is, in my opinion, the best quarterback in fantasy. And I do expect him to have even more passing yards, even more passing touchdowns. I don't think he's going to have nearly just quite as many rushing yards. And he had double-digit rushing touchdowns. That is a lot to ask for again, but I still think he's going to have the most rushing touchdowns of all quarterbacks simply because of that goal line sneak, that inside the 5-yard line ability he has. It's hard for me to think that there's a better trio of pass catchers than what Jalen Hurts has with A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, and Dallas Goedert. I am buying into the MVP hype as well. I think he is going to be probably the best player in the NFL, and I have done so many mock drafts taking him in the 2nd and 3rd round. And I just said, I do not do that. I hate doing that. It is too much of a risk. But by golly, do I think Hurts is going to be insane. So he's my number 1 for that reason.
Yeah, and I can't argue with it. I just talked about how special he is. The only reason that I don't have him as my QB1 is because I don't think I can vote against Patrick Mahomes. I don't know how I can bet against him. What do you even say? Super Bowl MVP, NFL MVP. He's already the GOAT. He's already the greatest of all time. And that's why he lands at my QB1. I didn't think he could do it last year. I thought losing Tyreek Hill was going to set him back. And for that reason, I'm embarrassed to say this.
Can I try to predict
what he was coming into last season?
What you had him ranked as?
Yeah, go for it.
Did you have him as QB8?
I did. I had Patrick Mahomes as my QB8 coming into last season. I was so convinced that he was not going to be able to do this without Tyreek Hill. And I ate my words so bad. 15 weeks as a top 12 quarterback, 8 weeks inside the top 4, and his wide receiver 1 was Juju Smith-Schuster. It doesn't matter who he has. He gets it done with everybody. He threw touchdowns. He threw touchdowns to 11 different players last year. As for his pass catchers, it's tough to know who to bet on besides Travis Kelce, but Patrick Mahomes will always find a way to get it done. And I can't bet against him again because that is the dumbest I have maybe ever felt when it comes to fantasy football was just betting against Patrick Mahomes. He's my QB1, and he probably will be for the foreseeable future.
You should feel no shame. We all bet against him in some way. We all were on the Broncos hype train. Some people were putting the Chiefs 3rd in the AFC West. I mean, without Tyreek Hill, we thought nothing was possible, and they literally were the greatest team in the NFL. And we're going to talk about preseason recaps and training camp updates and for the next episode. So subscribe, all that good stuff, because one of those things that we've talked about, Noah, is who the Chiefs wide receiver was going to be. We talked about what to read into training camp. There is no word. I have no clue where the ball goes. And he's still going to be it. He's still going to do it again. It's ridiculous.
Absolutely. He's going to be the guy. Listen, we made it to the top 10 quarterbacks. We made it through all the top 10 positions in fantasy football here. That is going to do it for our show. Let us know what you think of our rankings, who's not in our top 10 that should be. Do you really think that Justin Herbert should stay at QB7, or is Wes out of his mind for keeping him so low? Or do you agree with me and think that I'm just completely I don't even know. I don't know what's going to happen here. Am I off my rocker? Am I going to tank my draft? Am I going to lose my league in the draft by taking Justin Herbert? I've got him as my QB3, as we've talked about. Listen, let us know in the comments. Remember to follow us on all of our social medias down below, and you'll see some rankings as we pop up later this week. Make Teddy the Troll smile by hitting the subscribe button, ringing the bell, and be sure to check us out next Tuesday. We're going over some preseason ranks, or not some preseason ranks, some preseason buzz. We're going to talk about all the things you need to know about. Talk about some coming back around on those training camp battles that we talked about a few episodes ago. I'm Noah Selby.
I'm Wes Selby.
And this has been Fourth and Troll Fantasy. Fourth and Troll Fantasy is a production of Selby Artistic Workshop.